Hello, and thank you for watching. My name is Bradford Roberts, Principal Broker, Founder, and Owner of TR Realty in the Las Vegas area. After watching this video, please be sure to like it as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel. Download the pertinent handouts for this video by clicking the link in the comments below. Now let's get started. This video is entitled Class 4 Seller Excellence, and this segment is entitled Change Orders and Withdrawals. I'd like to bring your attention to the handout that I've provided to you, known as the MLS change order. Please get that in front of you right now. For those of you who have already watched Class 4 video on listing agreements, you might remember that when we went through that ER listing agreement, there was a provision that said the parties agree an MLS change order shall act as a valid addendum to the listing agreement. This is the change order that was referenced in that listing agreement. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. The address of the property along with the MLS number, property type, and listing price go at the top. It says in reference to the listing agreement executed by, and we would fill in the seller's and broker's name, because a listing agreement is a contract between a seller and a broker. Dated some date, the parties agree as follows. Notice that there are 6 options here, and notice that it's not a question of or. It's not a question of choosing one of these 6. So actually, this MLS change order can accomplish more than one goal at the same time. That will perhaps be a little bit more clear as we go through these. So let's look at option number 1. The agreement is renewed. The parties agree to extend the expiration date of the agreement from some date to some other date. If number 1 is selected, a copy of the change order must be submitted to the MLS. That's because MLS wants to make sure that listing agents are not just going into the system arbitrarily and extending their listings. So something very important I want to point out here on this paragraph. This paragraph is used when the seller is agreeing that we can take the original expiration date of the listing agreement and extend it out further. The property is not sold yet, right? Be very careful that if you're going to use this, that you actually use it before the listing agreement expires. We cannot extend something that is no longer valid. So if you're an agent and you wish to extend your listing and the seller is going to give you permission to do so, you need to fire up this change order, get it signed by the seller, and get it over to me for my signature before the listing agreement expires. Because, folks, once that listing agreement expires, we can't do a change order anymore. Again, we can't change something that's no longer in existence. So if you've got a listing on the market and you let it expire before you do a change order, we're going to reject the change order and make you do a whole new listing agreement. That's a lot of work. Let's go to option 2. To change the selling price from some current price to its future price. Usually this is done for a price reduction, but it doesn't have to be that way. It could be a price increase. I'm not sure why you would want to increase on the price of a property that hasn't sold, but I have seen that over the years. And look at how 1 and 2 work together. So you could use a single change order to extend the term of the listing in paragraph 1, as well as adjust the price of the listing in paragraph 2. Paragraph 3 is to allow us to put the property back on the market. You cannot just go into MLS and change the status back to active after being under contract or temporarily off the market or conditionally withdrawn. You can't just go back on the market without a change order. That is a required form. Number 4, to change the MLS status to under contract show, which means the listing is under contract, but showings are still being scheduled. This is like the old status of contingent. And this is where I recommend when we put a property under contract, this is the next status. That we go from AER, which is active exclusive right, means the property is on the market. When we effectuate a contract, I believe this should be the next status. Under contract, show. Again, similar to the old contingent. Number 5 says to change the MLS status to under contract, no show, which means the listing is under contract, but showings are no longer being scheduled. Well, it's possible that your seller doesn't want to go along with showings once they're under contract, although I believe that is foolish because some contracts do fall apart. Or you could think of this one as the old pending status. And for those of you new in real estate, you might not know what we used to say is the difference between contingent and pending. Contingent, as the name implies, means we're under contract, but there are contingencies. There's a due diligence period, maybe a loan contingency, appraisal contingency, maybe it's a short sale contingency, or contingent upon the sale of another property. So we would put it in C status for contingent. Pending was supposed to be used in the past when that existed. Pending was supposed to be used when those contingencies were cleared, and now we're just waiting for closing. In my opinion, the UCS should be used like the old contingent. The UCNS, under contract no show, should be used like the old pending status. And number 6 is to change the terms and/or conditions of the agreement as follows. This is where we would change anything else. One of the strategies here, let's say you've got a listing that's been sitting on the market. You're not getting activity, you're getting nervous how the listing agreement is coming close to expiration. One of the things you can do is to increase the co-op commission to the buyer's broker. Remember, the listing agreement gives us the right to do that as long as the seller's on board. This is how we would get the seller on board, by using paragraph number 6 in the change order. Maybe you're going to go from a 3% co-op to a 3.5% or a 4% co-op as an example. This is how we would do it. Or maybe the seller is no longer willing to take VA financing for some reason. Paragraph 6 is how you would do that. So as you can see, we can use one or more of these provisions in this change order at the same time on the same form. And near the bottom, it's going to have a requirement for the seller to sign, to date. If possible, please get the seller to time this form as well. The designated licensee, that's you, your name would go here. And folks, it is mandatory that you submit this change order for my signature and that you get it back signed before you ever make the change in MLS. I want to caution you, if you make a change in MLS without having this effectuated change order, which means signed by me, it is a major violation. Don't ever do it. And keep in mind that the MLS system at the broker level is going to alert us whenever you make a change. So my compliance department is going to make sure when they get notified of a change that we have a valid change order on file. If we do not, that listing is going to be withdrawn from MLS until such time as you get in compliance, and then you're going to have to go back and do it all over again. I'd like to bring your attention right away to the next handout in this segment, which is known as the withdrawal termination order. Please get that in front of you. Now, if we go about a quarter of the way down this form, you can see that there are 2 check boxes here. And this is an either-or situation, even though, unfortunately, the form doesn't give us the word or as a reminder. But there are 2 ways that we could withdraw a property. One is known as a WC, which stands for withdrawal conditional, or a WU, which stands for withdrawal unconditional. Conditional, unconditional, polar opposites, and that's why we can only choose one of these. Let's go through it together because it says withdrawal conditional. Withdrawal from the MLS does not terminate the listing contract. And then there's an effective date that you would put in here versus the termination of listing contract and withdrawal known as the WU. So here's the difference, folks. If we WC a property, it comes out of MLS. However, the legally binding listing agreement, the ER that exists between the seller and the broker, is not being canceled. they are still under contract. They still can't go out and hire another broker to put their property on the market. So it takes it out of MLS, but the listing agreement remains alive. The WU, however, not only takes the property out of MLS, but it kills the listing agreement. It is bilateral consent to terminate that listing agreement. And here at TR Realty, I am really, really reticent to agree to a WU unless the agent, the designated licensee, comes to me with a very valid reason. If you, as a licensee at TR Realty, wish to cancel a listing because maybe it's your property, maybe it's a relative, a friend, a repeat customer, and you, not the seller, but you come to me and say, I would like to WU this property, I will never give you a hard time. But I'm not going to WU for a seller just because the seller asked me to do so. Oftentimes, we can reassign that listing from one agent to another, and we can actually save the relationship, save the listing. So expect a little bit of a pushback from us if you're asking us to WU a property. I want to share with you a little strategy when it comes to the WC, because there are sellers who might be unethical enough to convince you to WC their property, but then leave it in WC status as a way of running out the clock on the listing agreement. So I have a strategy. If someone comes to us and says somebody in the house is sick, as an example, or we want to repaint the house and that's going to take some time, so during that time we don't want any showings, all of that stuff is perfectly valid. What we're going to do is we're going to WC, not WU, we're going to WC the property, but we're actually going to take the time the property is off the market, whatever time they need, a day, a week, a month, 6 months, whatever it is. We're going to take that time and we're going to append it to the back of the listing agreement. And that will prevent someone, unethical, that will prevent someone from simply WCing the property. Tick-tock, all of a sudden, ooh, the listing agreement expired while it was in WC status. So I have language in the clause library. Please grab that, put it in front of you right now. I have language in the clause library that we would actually add into the WC paragraph. I'd like to bring your attention to clause 4.10 in the clause library, which states, seller hereby authorizes listing broker to extend listing agreement by the same number of days that seller requests listing to be in WC status. So this is like hitting the pause button on the listing. And let's say somebody gets sick in the house and they don't want any activity, they don't want any showings. We can WC the property. If they're sick 3 days, if they're sick 3 months, it doesn't matter. But the point of this strategy is that we're not burning the time of the listing agreement. We're not running out that clock. So whatever that period of time is that the property is in WC status, we're going to take it, we're going to add it onto the back of the listing agreement so they don't run out our contract. Oh, and one more thing I should mention. A real estate agent can WC their own property, assuming they have a fully effectuated withdrawal termination order. However, the MLS system does not allow a real estate agent to WU a property. WU status is reserved only for the broker. I would like to thank you for watching this video. I hope it was informative for you. If you are licensed with another brokerage in Southern Nevada and would like to talk with me, please text me or visit our website. See you next time.